Thank you all for joining our June monthly webinar. Today, we're here to talk about district case studies and creating strong district partnerships with institutions of higher education and the community. We have some great guest speakers today. We have reserved the hour until 11 a.m. And as I mentioned, we're recording this webinar and we will post it on YouTube after we're done, and we'll send that via email. As many of you know, with Texas OnCourse, all Texas students, no matter where they come from or where they're headed, have a plan for success after high school. So this is always part of our mission, and we put together the monthly webinar series with that in mind. So we have some great information today, some things that have partnerships that happen here in Central Texas, but we'll also talk a little bit about some other partnerships in other areas of the state. If you do not follow our channel on YouTube, that link is right there. We have Texas OnCourse channel. We post all of our webinars and we have lots of videos and things that are on that YouTube channel. And that will help you also search by topic. And when you get, if you register for anything, you can, you'll get access to that. And we just dropped that, that YouTube link in the chat there for you. So just a quick couple of things on our webinars. This is the last one we're having this particular school year, and our teams are getting together to plan for next year. All of our webinars are recorded. And even though like we had over 100, I think 150 people registered for today's webinar, we know not everyone can join live. So we send it out to everyone that's registered, and we send that recording with the YouTube link. And we put our upcoming webinars and also our recordings posted to our webpage. And a lot of times that accompanies, is accompanied by a blog that gives a little bit of a summary on what we talk about in the webinar. So, and that is our monthly webinar series, and the link to that there at the bottom. Okay, here's our agenda for this morning. I want to go ahead and dive right in. We're just going to do a quick welcome to our speakers. We'll kick it off with Ashley McKenzie from Texas OnCourse, and just spotlighting a couple of resources that we have at Texas OnCourse here at the coordinating board. And Gilbert Zavala is here, worked with him for many years with the Greater Austin Chamber of Commerce. There's a really, really great partnership and some initiatives that have been going on in Austin, and he's going to talk a little bit about those. And we have some district highlights, as we always do in our webinar series. Alex Duran is here from Austin ISD to talk a little bit about some of their early college programs and highlights. And then we don't have anyone from Aldine ISD, but we have some ideas to share about some partnerships that they have in their district. And then we'll have some time for questions, and we'll close out by 11 a.m. I see lots of familiar names in our participant lists here. My name's Laura Guggen, and I'm Director of Program Implementation at OnCourse. And I have a district background in college and career readiness, so I'll help Gilbert talk a little bit about some work we've done in the past on direct to college enrollment here in the Austin area. And my team works districts that are using Texas OnCourse and just their implementation of our resources across the state. I'll kick it over to Ashley.
Hi, my name is Ashley McKenzie, and I am one of the program specialists at Texas OnCourse. And I also have a background in college and career counseling. I was a high school, college, and career counselor for about 6.5 years. And so I am excited to be here with you and share our resources.
Thank you, Ashley. Gilbert.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gilbert Zavala. I'm Vice President of Education and Talent Development here at the Austin Chamber, and I oversee our partnerships around attainment with our school districts and higher education institutions. Glad to join and look forward to our conversation.
Wonderful. Thank you, Gilbert. We're happy to have you this morning. And Alex?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Alex Duran. I serve as an early college programs and CCMR district coordinator for Austin ISD. This is my 8th year in the realm of college and career, beginning as an avid secondary teacher and coordinator in Austin ISD, a college and career advisor, and this is my 1st year in this role.
Thank you so much for joining us, Alex. We appreciate it. Okay, just real quickly, this is just always helpful to have in the chat. We would love to know, for those of you that are here with us this morning, what kind of community partnerships are in place? This looks really different all across the state. If you want to just take a minute and put in the chat, in your current role, what community partnerships do you have? We would love to hear from you. We'll give you a minute to put that in the chat. Oops, go back to that. This could be with businesses. It could be with an institution of higher ed. Maybe you have dual credit programs, any one of those things. Perfect. Yes, Alex, thank you. Set lots of different college access programs. And if some come up as we continue to dive into some of the programs we're talking about, I see lots of dual credit. We have had like exponential growth in early college high school programs, Angelo State, Vernon College and dual credit. Yeah, these are some great examples. Credit by exam with UT, College Assistance Migrant Program. Great, thank you for sharing some of those. I'm gonna turn it over to Ashley to talk about some of our community partnership spotlights.
Awesome, so we have been developing at Texas OnCourse some community partnership spotlights to feature some of the great work that community organizations are doing with school districts around the state of Texas. And so these spotlights are case studies that will allow you to see a brief background of what the community organization is doing. You can go to the next slide if you want. So today we are showing you the Greater Austin Chamber of Commerce spotlight that we worked with Gilbert and his team on. So in these documents, we have 4 of them. So we feature 4 different community organizations from around the state. We give you a little background or history of the organization, the needs of the areas that they serve based on their educational landscape, the current trends and the challenges they face. And we also provide you with kind of how they addressed financial aid completion and the lessons that they learned both through their successes and through their failures. These documents give you some best practices and some action items so that you can implement similar practices on your campus or in your district. And then these are just the key features that I went over. The 4 organizations that we highlight in our community partner spotlights are the Greater Austin Chamber of Commerce, the Texas College Access Network, the Commit Partnership, which is located in the Dallas area, and then RGV Focus, which is located in the Rio Grande Valley. Next, I will tell you a little bit about our financial aid graduation requirement website and toolkits. If you have not visited this website, this is a great resource for you if you are looking for tips and helpful resources to help your students and their families meet the new financial aid application requirement. If you want to go to the next slide. There are 4 different toolkits located on this website. Each of those toolkits provides information for a different audience. So there's one developed specifically for counselors and advisors, another for community partners, and then families, and then finally students. These guides give you a comprehensive guide to success. So it will have resources if you are a counselor to help you implement completion programs, resources that you can pass on to your parents, and a really detailed and curated resource library that includes websites, infographics, videos, and more. Be sure to check back at this website again before school starts. We are in the process of revising it and adding additional resources to it. So we are constantly updating it and adding more information. And then finally, I will also just direct you once again to our Texas OnCourse Academy. Many of you are familiar with our academy. It is a great resource for professional development for counselors and advisors. We do have a couple of modules related to financial aid, the FAFSA and the TASFA applications. And so if you have not done those, or if you need a refresher, I always encourage you to go back and use the academy because it's one of our favorite resources at Texas OnCourse. And next, I'm going to pass it over to Gilbert Zavala and let him talk about his work through the Greater Austin Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Ashley. And given time, I want to make sure I'm moving quickly here just to allow some room for conversation. On the next slide, you'll see sort of a roadmap for what I intend to cover today, which is essentially the context for our work here in Austin, examples of our strategies that we work on for direct to college and direct to workforce, college career readiness. What do those outcomes look like? And then I'll try to get into some practical takeaways for your region, knowing that all regions have different challenges and you might be doing some of the same work that we're doing, but maybe some areas that you can refine. I'll suggest some elements to consider. So first and foremost, our partnership around direct to college enrollment is really centered around our labor market data. So right now we have 85,000 open jobs in Central Texas, and the majority of those jobs actually require post-secondary credentials. And this is hovered, if you go to the next slide, at around 60%. We've seen it as high as 65%. And the important thing about this is that while these opportunities are out there, if the student doesn't have a post-secondary credential, doesn't have a post-secondary plan, when they exit high school, they're really entering a challenging situation. This can affect their long-term prospects. And we know that as they delay enrollment in the long term, they're actually placing themselves out of the competition for some of these higher paying jobs. On the next slide, you might have this in your market, but we track our post-secondary enrollment, compare ourselves to the state and nation. And because our demand for post-secondary credentials is so high, we've set a target to get to around 70% direct to college enrollment and ensure that the other 30% of our students are connecting with career and workforce training opportunities. Our challenge is, as I said, our market skews to post-secondary credential, demand for post-secondary credentials, but we're behind the nation. Even if we're ahead of the state, that's not where we want to be. We want to provide as many opportunities for our students to be able to compete for good jobs. And that's why we focus on our direct to college and direct to career programming. Look at the next slide. What we have as a challenge beyond the fact that we're lagging the nation is that we've got high wages in our region that are encouraging students that don't pursue post-secondary to enter the labor market. And that's good for the short term in terms of their earnings. But if you go on to the next slide, what we find is that very few are actually making a living wage. In fact, wage inflation this year raised that share to 24%. But what that means is that 76% of recent grads over the last year who entered the labor market are making less than a living wage in our region. And that's not good. That places them out of an opportunity to earn good pay. And it also affects their trajectory and probability of earning a credential if they delay enrollment beyond a year. So what we've done is we've focused on strategies that encourage direct to college enrollment, and I'll cover these on the next slide. So first we focus on readiness. So this is providing direct support through Austin Partners in Education on boosting SAT, ACT performance and college readiness to increase the likelihood that students will complete a credential. We also track real-time data to provide this to counselors so that they can target support to students based on their career and college plans. We're monitoring college and career interest, Applied Texas, FAFSA, and we're also recognizing performance from our district partners and school districts around these metrics. We focus on making sure that students have the funding they need to enroll in college. In Austin ISD, over half of our students are low income, and in our surrounding district partners in our MSA, we've got poverty rates that go, into the 90%. And even with some Title I campuses in Austin ISD, between 80 and 90% poverty. So we don't want financial barriers to be an impediment to post-secondary enrollment. And we work with the district and our higher education partners to coordinate a large financial aid campaign, usually between 40 and 50 events. We provide scholarships to incentivize attendance and promote those events, as well as social media campaigns. We've leveraged Austin City Limits, South by Southwest, ACL Fest to drive attendance to these events and recognize students that help promote registration and FAFSA completion as part of the campaign. So know that despite being ready and despite having filed for financial aid, sometimes students will not end up enrolling in college. And that's why we've worked with research partners initially to structure a summer MELT college and career transition campaign that serves about 10,000 students in the region. We rely on digital messaging and direct outreach to counselors, and we leverage our One Logos College Ready platform that aggregates data so counselors know where students are in the process, who's ready, who's filed an application but hasn't filed aid, who's flagged for aid verification, and who might need support over the summer. We also are focusing on helping students earn while they learn. So part of this is tied to our financial aid campaign because work study funding comes through FAFSA for those that are pursuing credit-based enrollment in post-secondary institutions. But we also work with the City of Austin on a summer jobs and internship program. We have a talent ambassadors program that connects schools and educators to employers offering apprenticeships or internships. And this summer, we'll be integrating some career and workforce training campaigns around advanced manufacturing, healthcare, IT, and skilled trades that also provide on the continuing ed side to help students get a short-term credential and enter the labor market. And lastly, we're very focused on evaluating our performance, supporting continuous improvement. We're looking at enrollment, persistence, credential completion, and employment outcomes, which is why I can share the data that I provided earlier. And really, this is about ensuring that we can be introspective about our partnership with schools and that we are providing the right resources and support to our students in our community. Next slide. We also advocate, as the chamber, we're able to do advocacy at the state and the federal level to support college and career military readiness. We got behind House Bill 3. We've supported hold harmless funding for schools throughout the pandemic to ensure that students receive good support, and the counselors are well supported as well. We've advocated at the federal level for aid simplification, supported programming around addressing digital divide and workforce alignment this past legislative session. Next slide. In terms of outcomes, we've been fortunate to have a strong FAFSA completion rate, and that's thanks to the work that happens at the district level, campus level, to ensure that students are getting connected with funding for college. We end up with a 73% rate, which is a little bit higher than we have had in the prior years. This ultimately means several hundred million in aid for students to support college enrollment. This aligns closely to the Applied Texas completion rate, although I suspect that might actually be higher, only because we know some students file Common App or other applications, institutional applications that we're not necessarily tracking, as well as the readiness rate. And see that's close to, but not quite what we'd like it to be, closer to 70%, and then target support to those 10,000 students I referenced. In terms of why we invest so much in the summer campaign and why we focus on the strategies that we're focused on, we know that it makes a difference, particularly for our low income students. You can see this is a 26 percentage point impact difference between students that receive summer melt outreach and those who enroll for low income students. And it's a similar impact for first generation students. That's a 20, looks like almost a 30%, just under 30% impact for both. And ultimately, we want students not just to enroll, but to complete credentials. And we know that if we can get them over the readiness hurdles, if we can get them connected to financial aid, 66% will complete a credential within 6 years. And the direct enrollment piece is key because if we can get them enrolled directly, we've got that 66% credential completion rate, in comparison to only a 39 or 23% completion rate for those who delay enrollment. And it makes the biggest difference for our low income students who we can see complete credentials at rates 3 times higher than their peers who do not enroll college ready or complete a FAFSA. So in terms of things that I might share for you all to take away is sort of know where you stand and make sure your leadership is engaged in your CCMR related work so you can set goals and targets for improvement. Leverage the data that you have from kind of your self-assessment to inform your strategies and programs. Consider how you can use longitudinal data over time to look at trends, but also real-time data to drive your performance. Think about incentives and recognition to drive outcomes. If you're in a district able to recognize staff who are being particularly helpful in driving CCMR or working in a partnership that involves schools and colleges, this is all hard work and folks deserve recognition for their efforts. So consider how that can help strengthen your partnerships and your outcomes for your region. I'd add, if you don't have your business community involved, if you don't have a chamber, it might be an economic development corporation, businesses, or other nonprofits that are working in the college access space. Think about how you can collaborate, align to drive performance in your work in your region, and always look introspectively and think about how you can support continuous improvement for your efforts. That can be a self-evaluation, but preferably this can be an external evaluation so you can have some objective suggestions. And maybe this can be part of a partnership with your community college or part of a partnership with your local four-year institution. These are all things that can help inform work and drive outcomes for students. And that is all.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Gilbert. I had a couple of things that I wanted to add. Prior to coming to Texas OnCourse, I was college and career coordinator for Austin ISD. So a lot of this work and a lot of this data and a lot of, the recognition and the DTC 70 initiative we did together for the last few years. So I just wanted to share from a district perspective what this partnership what this work was like on the school end, because Gilbert shared some really great information and data from the chamber end. And this was of course, a collaborative partnership where we got together regularly as a committee, and also shared information with other districts. So that's really the first one, that like the committee work with surrounding districts. Part of the reason we have a webinar series and we have a fellowship is because it's really helpful to share ideas with other districts. Some might have the same sort of population of students, and others may not. Certainly, large urban districts trade ideas, and so do small rural. So I just kind of wanted to identify that there's some enhancements to being part of this work that when I was thinking about it, and we were building the slides, what kinds of things, what kind of opportunities and enhancements that this work created. And the first one was really the data collection. Having all of this data sort of at our fingertips was really great in making progress goals, setting goals, sharing information, and getting stakeholders involved. Gilbert mentioned your CCMR leaders, they're key in whoever you're working with, and it's tied to the businesses and the people in the community. So sharing that data regionally and also statewide, I thought was really beneficial. Because sometimes you can be in a place where it's hard to get your hands on data because it comes from so many different places. And then also just the idea that the collaborative efforts involve leaders and support schools. We definitely felt supported in this work. Gilbert talked a little bit about recognition, but also the financial aid events that we had. It's a lot of work to pull some of these events off on weekends and in the evening. And, a lot of this was, of course, prior to the pandemic, but we needed practical help for folks to do FAFSA and TASFA. So, supporting school staff, training staff, I think was really beneficial, even before we had a financial aid mandate for high school students to complete these applications, which was in 2022. And also he mentioned training opportunities and support with events was really key. And advocacy, legislative and policy support. Many of we've been trying to get ratios down in terms of counseling and advising for students for many years in this landscape. So just the support and advocacy for this work, I think was just key on a state level and even on a local level. And just some other benefits I thought it was important to recognize. I don't think educators are recognized for progress and accomplishments enough, because just so much of that is the work we do is actually recognizing students. So being on a campus where you did really great work, innovative ideas, maybe you had way more events, maybe you took a different approach to financial aid or Apply Texas, I think that recognition really, really, really goes a long way. And that's really why we highlight district work in our webinars as well. And also just anything that's published, press release. We have a lot more educators on LinkedIn now, progress reports and identifying the work that's done over even sometimes it's from 1 year to the next, but can also be over, 5 years at a campus. I think it's great to have an emphasis on outcomes as well. All that progress and finding it takes a long time to compile outcomes, especially when you're doing the work. So there was a lot of support there and being able to articulate and show what the outcomes were. And of course, building stronger connections with IHEs and community organizations. Some of this work helps build my relationships with Austin Community College, their financial aid office, Houston Tillotson here in Austin, all sorts of different volunteers and just a network of people doing this work together. And of course, having staffing support for these initiatives, being able to train more people, being able to just give them a box lunch and say, we're all in this together. Let's look at how we can tackle financial aid this year. So there were some great benefits, and I thought I wanted to just reiterate some of the chamber work from the perspective of being here in Austin and doing that work together. So we have some district practices. I'm going to turn it over to Alex, who's able to join us this morning to talk a little bit about their current work in Austin. Alex?
Good morning, everybody. Speaking of partnerships, I have the pleasure of joining you guys remotely from San Antonio. We're currently attending our College Career Readiness School Models Leadership Summit with TEA. And so great partners here today that we have with Educate Texas and their work in leading ECHF, PTech, and T-STEM programs. So I'm excited to be here and thank you for the opportunity. As I mentioned before, I serve as the Early College Program Coordinator for Austin ISD. Ironically, I remember when I first started my college and career advising experience with Austin ISD, our leader was Ms. Laura Guggen, and then I currently have inherited what used to be her position along with some other pieces of CCMR. So it's definitely a full circle experience here. So I'm excited to be here with you guys today.
Oh, thank you, Alex. That's great.
So talking a little bit about the Austin ISD's partnership with the Austin Chamber of Commerce, right? From a district perspective, right? Especially when thinking about like House Bill 3 and a financial aid graduation requirement that was announced several years ago. We knew that this would be a challenge for our school district and for many of our campuses, like many of you guys have seen on your own campuses. But we felt a little bit safe and comforted that we had an established partnership with the Austin Chamber of Commerce and their financial aid campaign to assist our students in completing FAFSAs and TASPAs. And so really their efforts in training financial aid volunteers to support our students to complete those applications, navigating some of the intricacies of them, and then having the support of our college and career advisors or counselors to navigate some of the special cases has been invaluable to our success in meeting this new graduation requirement. Their support from the Austin Chamber not only comes in for organizing financial aid events, right? But there's a lot of flexibility in regards to, after school, during the school day, on Saturdays, whatever the campus determines what's best for their student population and their need. They mentioned, financial compensation in the form of scholarships for students to register and attend, but they also provide financial assistance in regards to providing meals for our volunteers or our students, depending if it's like an after school event or a Saturday morning breakfast. And those are some of the things that's invaluable, especially when we consider ourselves a school district like Austin ISD, where a lot of our funding, becomes more and more limited in regards to recapture. And so that's a great tool and an opportunity and partner that we have with the Austin Chamber of Commerce. Gilbert had mentioned a little bit about the One Logos College platform. So that is good because it helps with the Direct to College 70 initiative that we have with them, along with our other school districts here in the Central Texas area. Having the opportunity or a platform to text students directly, speaking to a group of campus-based counselors and leaders can really change the game in college and career advising for our students. And so that One Logos platform that houses information about student application progress, financial aid, if they were selected for verification, being able to communicate with students and parents is an invaluable source. In regards to our Summer Melt initiative, which we are in week 1, day 2 of that, right? Our first round of messages that the Austin Chamber has created a template for us. Will be going out later today. And so they provide the training directly for our advisors in regards to the One Logos platform, or the communication platform that we use. They also connect us to community partners like our institution of higher education that we use a lot here in Austin ISD, Austin Community College, NEPRIS, which I have listed at the bottom, which is a synchronous and asynchronous platform to connecting teachers and learners to industry professionals to provide students really with the great insight into like what particular industries would look like. And so we are excited to have him on and continue our efforts with Summer Melt. For those of you guys who may be new to Summer Melt, I always share this story is that Summer Melt is actually my favorite part of the college and advising experience, just because I always had students who would avoid me all year, but summer was the best time to talk about it. And so having a student who I made no progress with and got them apply to financial aid and to ACC in 2 days, right? Best feeling in the world. And finally, since we're talking about partnerships here, right, I would be remiss, but again, really talk about, the Texas Education Agency CCRSM models, right? Specifically focus on our relationship with the Austin Chamber of Commerce, a really big focus on our PTech, our Pathways to Technology Education opportunities here in Austin ISD, which is a tri-agency program in collaboration with ACC and a myriad of industry partners. The Austin Chamber provides us a myriad opportunities to meet with new partners, to engage in work-based learning opportunities, and just kind of building our capacity as we continue building on the PTECs that we have, but also continue building on new pathways and new designations that come along the way. And really connecting the why to some of this work, right, is I always think about like CCMR accountability, the college readiness pieces that the data points that the Austin Chamber provides, focusing that work in alignment with our CCMR bonus outcomes funding model that the state provides, and then how that connects to our 60 by 30 higher ed strategic plan. And all these pieces connect in a beautiful way where it's more of a system instead of individual pieces. Things that I would want to say and highlight beyond the details is that, like Ms. Guggen said, right, I do believe that it's a mutually beneficial relationship. Both sides do rise to the challenges to serve students in the changing landscape of policies and ways that we can support students. They're always ready to serve and support on what we need. And we're also ready to discuss what needs to be similar across the board, what might need to be differentiated for certain campuses, and how we can scaffold support for those campuses. And so because of these 4 things and many others, Austin ISD is truly lucky to have a partner like the Austin Chamber of Commerce.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much, Gilbert and Alex, for sharing that information. It's really, really valuable. And I'm glad we got a perspective on what your current work is, Alex, and Austin ISD as well. Aldine ISD was not able to join us live, but we've worked with them for several years as a partner district, and we've had fellows and part of the fellowship network that we have. And so I just to sort of close us out, we wanted to recognize some work that they're doing in the Houston area in Aldine ISD. With Lone Star College. So they shared this information with us. So I'm going to do my very best to talk through it as best as I know. But their leadership team really wanted to highlight the work at Lone Star and in specific to having events at Lone Star College for Aldine ISD students. So recently they had a targeted enrollment event with their students, and this was at the beginning of June. So Lone Star and Aldine have a partnership where they work together really closely. And some of those students, they were recruited, I would say, because they had not finished the enrollment process. So we're getting into like some of the summer melt kinds of things that Alex just referred to. There's a lot of steps at the community college level and also at the, a 4-year university to enrollment. And oftentimes, students complete 6 out of the 12 steps, and they don't always make it to the first day of classes. So Lone Star and Aldine identified these students. There were over 100 there at the beginning of June. Those students were able to, in person, complete an orientation. So all the things that are needed for those students to walk through all of their paperwork with help doing so, they did. And then also they were able to have access to real-time, real-life, in-person advising with Lone Star College staff in several different programs, as well as just getting them started in terms of advising. So that advising piece was checked off the list, or at least that process was started. And students were able to learn about different academic programs. So providing an overview for those students that might be starting off as undecided or might be changing major or certificate programs that they have there. So Aldine ISD wanted to share this partnership with Lone Star, and they look forward to sort of growing that partnership as a community member and as an IHE. And I think that we will only see that grow. And they wanted to also highlight this next partnership with a college access program called One Goal. Some of you might be familiar with One Goal in the Houston area. So One Goal is a really cool, I think, kind of program model where it is a college enrollment program for students. And you can jump in, I believe, every year, but it is a 3-year program for students. So year 1 is their junior year. Year 2 is senior year. And year 3 is the first year they're enrolled in any sort of post-secondary institution. So that might be a technical school. It could be Texas State in San Marcos. So I think their program model, it's worth mentioning that this is how they follow their students, and they spend 3 years with them in that college enrollment program. And this is a partnership with the district. So multiple high schools in Aldine ISD have the One Goal program, so students can access it at several different high schools. They have a lot of information on their website about One Goal. So they did share with us some of their progress. One Goal worked with 392 students in the 21-22 school year that we just wrapped up. And they have identified and are planning to work with 655 students in 22-23. So that's a really nice increase. And some of their preliminary data mentions a couple of things that they wanted to highlight. One Goal students are 3 to 4 times more likely to graduate from college. And so that's really fantastic progress right there. And this, of course, connects back to district college enrollment goals. Aldine has had a specific goal in their district for the last couple of years to increase college enrollment. So that's part of the objective behind this partnership. They had some great additional information, but those are two community partnerships and one IHE that they really wanted to highlight in Aldine. And we keep in close connection with that district as well, because we know that this looks, as with Texas being such a huge state, these partnerships look really different in different cities. So with that being said, we had a lot of information we covered. I'm going to open up the chat and just mention if you have any questions, there are no wrong questions. You can ask Gilbert, Alex, myself, and you can put any questions in the Q&A box as well before we close out. Gilbert popped in his email there. We have some links that we have covered in the webinar throughout the chat. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask those. And again, I know Gilbert is extremely busy. Alex was able to join us today from a conference in San Antonio, and we appreciate your contributions and your continued work in this area as well. And Alex, thank you so much for adding your email in there as well. We will add those things to the slides and the recording that we share. And I just also wanted to mention, again, there's our YouTube if you need that link. But this is wrapping up this is our last monthly webinar for this particular school year. So right now we are planning for next year. I can just mention, we have some really major Applied Texas updates. We're rolling out the eTASFA. We'll be talking about CCMR and also some other initiatives that we have at the coordinating board in college and career advising. So our teams are planning a really valuable webinar series for next year. Let us know if you need anything. And we will follow up with a recording and all this information. So again, thank you all so much. And we hope everybody has a really wonderful summer, and we'll see you back in August.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Gilbert. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you, guys. Pleasure being here today.
Wonderful. Take care.